I know a lot of times when talking to clients about real estate and about buying, the number one thing that comes up is interest rates, interest rates, interest rates. They're too high. I want to get back to 2021 where they were 3%, or even 2019 where they were 4%. Anything like, just the interest rates are just too high right now, which they're at what, 7.5, 8 or so, somewhere around there.
Yeah, depending on loan size and credit score, which obviously impact those things, but we're going to be anywhere between about 6.75 on a good credit score government loan versus, about 7.5 on a lower credit score, maybe conventional or even a bank loan, something like that.
Sure. Yeah, and I know for some people they're willing to get past it and understand that, I may have a higher interest rate right now, but I know that when interest rates do eventually come down, which they will, it's just a matter of when, they understand that they could refinance out of it. And Richard is also a person that could help you refinance out of any loans that you're currently in, because of course a 7.5, 7% interest rate is not really ideal of what you're wanting to do. So Richard, kind of give the audience a little bit of a perspective of what a payment could look like from 2021 when interest rates were at that 2.5, 3% to what they are now, where you said that 6.7 to 7%. What is the difference?
Yeah, so I'll use about a $300,000 loan amount as my example. In 2021, and the way that I like to look at these differences, and that I think everybody really should, is just looking at the principal and interest portion of your payment, because taxes, insurance, mortgage insurance, those things do go into your mortgage payment, but they're static, right? So that's not affected by the interest rate or down payment. The only things affected by the interest rate and down payment are going to be, that principal and interest portion of your monthly payment. So back in 2021 with, like you said, those 2.5 to 3.5 interest rates, we were paying about $1,400, $1,475 on a $300,000 loan, which, to put that into comparison today, we're going to be looking at about $2,190 for that same $300,000 loan. So that's almost, $700, almost 50% more than you would have, which really makes sense if you think about it. 3.5 to 7%, that's doubling. The principal and interest portion is going to go up as well.
Oh wow! See, and that's why a lot of people are caught up in not wanting to move, because they're stuck with that such a low rate, because maybe they've bought more house, or it's just really that good of a financial deal. A lot of times I've heard the phrase of, because when they have a 3% interest rate, they were getting it at a premium price. They're almost borrowing money for free. And this is a very good example right here of somebody who's getting money almost for free versus having to pay $700 extra just from 4% difference in what the interest rate would be. And Richard, what are creative ways that you can kind of get around maybe some of those higher interest rates in today's market that you've been kind of pursuing or recommending to your clients?
Yeah, so it really just depends on that client's situation. So something that I've heard a lot of people talk about, a lot of my different investors, is those 3-2-1 buy downs, which can be a great product. 3-2-1 buy down, 2-1 buy down, 1-0 buy down, which essentially is just the amount of years that your payment is going to be a lower interest rate.
Okay.
While that's fantastic, especially for someone that thinks they're only going to be in the home for a few years, someone that may be in the military or has just moved for their job and knows that they're going to be hopefully relocating in the near future. Whereas if you find someone that has the home of their dreams, maybe we look at buying the interest rate down permanently, where the real difference in those things is on the 3-2-1 buy down or those temporary rate buy downs, you're going to be paying the difference in interest just upfront out of pocket, as opposed to on a permanent rate buy down, you're having that lower interest rate for the life of the loan. So it achieves a couple of different things. It lets you put more money towards principal right away, which helps if you go do refinance or go to sell the home in the future. You'll have more equity, things like that. So it really, to answer your question, just depends on the person's situation and their goals.
Sure. And can you give like an example of a 3-1 buy down? Like, so at it would be at this interest rate and then go to this and then this. Like, what is something that you've seen when it comes to those kind of buy downs?
Yeah, so I'm actually quoting one right now. The person is they're at the par rate, so that's where they're not paying any extra money for the interest rate. They're going to do a 3-2-1 buy down. So for that first year, they're going to be 3% lower than their par rate. So as opposed to paying 7.25% on the interest rate, they're going to be at 4.25%. The second year, they're going to be at 5.25. Third year, 6.25. And then from the fourth year through the 30th year, so the rest of the loan, they're going to be at that 7.25.
Okay. Well, that does sound really intriguing, especially anticipating that interest rates will be significantly lower than they are now in 3, 4, 5 years, things like that. And then the other thing that I know that we've had conversations with some of our clients when talking about ways to get around interest rates is a 5/1 ARM product. Could you speak a little bit further on that?
Yeah, so an ARM is something that kind of got a bad rap due to the housing crisis of, 07, 08, 09. An ARM is an adjustable rate mortgage. And like Ramir was saying, a 5/1 ARM is the most common one that we see. So that is going to be fixed for 5 years. That's what the 5 is, the first number. And then the second number is going to be how often that rate can adjust. So a 5/1 ARM is fixed for 5 years and then can adjust every year after that.
Okay, excellent. And then I know, what is the cap? For example, what could the cap be on something of after that 5th year, then your mortgage, your interest rate would then at that point start going up? What would that cap be?
So again, that just depends on the ARM product. So there's really a third number when talking about ARM. So let's say it's a 5/1-2. So that third number, that 2, is going to be the cap that it can go up in a given year. So it's fixed for 5 years. Next year, and then after it's fixed, it can adjust every year a maximum of 2% that year. So let's say we start off at 5.75. We're fixed for 5 years. That 6th year, the market rate is really closer to about 8.5. Well, because we were locked in at that 5.75 and our ARM is a 5/1-2, we can only go up to 7.75, even though the market is really closer to 8.5%.
Okay, awesome.
And there will also be caps as well, which you will see on a loan estimate, and your loan officer should be talking to you about the caps, just so that you're not surprised when you do get to a higher interest rate after the adjustment period.